Thanks so much for coming, everybody. Welcome, attendees. My name is Fred LeBaron. I'm an adult and teen services librarian at the Downers Grove Public Library, where I think most of you registered. Our host tonight will be Liz Kirchhoff from the Barrington Area Library. Aside from her expertise on all things Etsy, Liz is a librarian extraordinaire. She's a member of the ALA Notable Books Council and a book reviewer for Library Journal, the professional journal of the library profession. And aside from that, just an all-around nice person and knowledgeable expert on many, many things she loves to share with people as part of her professional experience. So without any further ado, I guess I do want to briefly mention, for those of you with Downers Grove Library cards, we have a raft of resources to help your small business on our library webpage, dglibrary.org. Many, many subscription databases that can be very valuable to you in market research and financial planning and all that kind of good stuff. So take a look there if you have a few spare moments and want to further that kind of expertise. And now I will turn it over to Liz. I do want to mention that we are in a webinar format. So folks, you'll be listening and not be able to speak. However, you will see down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a chat feature and a Q&A feature. Liz will be answering those Q&A questions at the end of the program tonight, but feel free to put them in as they occur to you, and we'll get them as part of the wrap up. So now I promise I really will stop talking. Thanks so much, and take it away, Liz.
Thanks. I really appreciate you having me. So I'm very happy to be with y'all tonight. And today we're going to talk Etsy. So there's a bunch of different things we're going to do today. So we're going to talk sort of generally about what Etsy is, how to sell, how to list, and then we'll also talk a little bit about how to promote this thing that you're spending all of this time doing. So this all, if you are coming at it kind of your first time, can be kind of overwhelming. So what my goal is today is to kind of help you to sort of weed through some of those things that maybe are less important for you as you're beginning your journey with this website, and kind of get you to the real meat and potatoes that you need to know right now to get going, and then you can kind of pick up the rest as you go. So let's start by talking about what Etsy is. So you're at this class, so you probably generally know that Etsy is an e-commerce site for homemade, vintage items. People shop here a lot because they're things that have a great story. Maybe they're really unique or interesting in some ways. A lot of people have taken to buying wherever they can on Etsy because you're buying from an actual person and you're not buying from a big corporation, which is why you would buy here, like where it's maybe a little bit more expensive than somewhere like Target. So those are some reasons you might shop here. It is also great, lesser known, but great for purchasing supplies. So really interesting fabrics, interesting notions that are a little bit different than what you would see at like Joann Fabric or whatever. And also just great for gifts and great for stories. So you can look here for jewelry, for bags, kits, art kits. I buy all of my patterns for embroidery on this site, all as PDFs. So it's a great spot for that. So there's lots we can do here. So as you guys probably all know, this is one giant site that has oodles and oodles and oodles, thousands of stores that each have sort of their own policies. They've got their own shipping and sort of their own focus. So that's kind of where we're at. So we're all starting from the same place. So you probably all know this, but we're going to run through how to shop generally. first. So we know we have the categories up top. So we have the holiday shop, jewelry and accessory, all those things. So you can just mouse over something. I badly want a mini hat. Why not? So we can click on that to see sort of what is out there. So that's one way to shop. Another way is by a product name. So I can search for dog taco costume. So my dog is going as a taco for Halloween. So they have me all covered. So I can search here, and I can look at any of these things that we see here. I can see the reviews, a little bit of information about the product itself, how quickly it'll ship, which is really important right now, how much it's going to cost us, all that sort of stuff. So you guys understand shipping, you understand shopping, all that jazz. So I won't spend too much time on that. One thing you might like to know is that you can narrow your search if you would like to shop local. So say I am looking for a scarf. If I type in scarf, I see there is nearly 1 million results. I can go to all filters, and there's an option there that'll ask me where I want to shop, like my shop to be living. And I just kind of do Chicago because, you know, nobody's gonna be selling scarves from Elgin. I would be shocked. That's where I'm at. I know you guys aren't. And I can see there's still a bunch. There's still 7,000, but it's not nearly as much as we had before. And it lets me keep things very, very local to where I am, which is really important to a lot of people. So you can research your seller. I know I kind of mentioned that real briefly. I can take a look here. I'm just going to move this away real quick. I can look and see what this person sells. They literally sell one thing. That's funny, but they've sold a lot of them. We can see they've sold 1,376 of them, which is fair. It's pretty funny. We can see some of their reviews. So I see there's 148 of them, and I can kind of scan through some of these things and sort of generally see what they say. This is all pretty standard stuff if you're buying stuff online. So easy peasy. And then to purchase an item, you're going to need to have Apple Pay or PayPal or a credit card. So all pretty standard stuff. So now let's start talking about how to sell. So I am really excited that I have you all here now, because now is the time. So I always encourage people that I talk to at my library who are thinking about doing an Etsy store to try their darndest to have something up and ready to go by Black Friday. So this is the time of the year where everybody is shopping like crazy, and everybody, especially this year, is going to be shopping more and more online wherever they can, because people just don't want to go out into the public still. So you're going to see a lot of online shopping. So Etsy is really, really promoting this pretty hard right now. They are encouraging people to offer sales, and we'll talk a little bit about how to do that in their shop between November 1st and December 1st. So you guys are just like right in time to list a handful of things and kind of get going, get started. So one of the reasons that you're going to want to sort of think about doing this is because those supply chain issues that we're seeing everywhere else are also an issue here. For the most part, you all will be able to kind of handle that without too much trouble. You may see some longer shipping times though. So this might be one of those times where it's great to get kind of your sales in really early, and kind of plan ahead as far as that goes. So to get started, what you're going to do on your own pages when you're doing this at home is you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'm already logged in, so you're not going to see it on mine. And you'll see under sell, right above the seller handbook, you'll see something that says sell on Etsy. So like I said, we're not seeing it on mine, but that's only because I'm already logged in and they know I'm selling. So what that's going to take you to is a page called your shop manager, which lives always at the top of the page. And it's going to be on that right side there. And what it's going to bring up is this dashboard. So there's a lot of stuff that's here, a boatload of stuff. And we're going to take like a real quick kind of walk through generally where some of this stuff is. So I would want to maybe draw your attention to some of that information that I was just sharing with you about early shopping and sales. There's a little module right here. If it's not there on yours for some reason, there is another way that we can get at that, and I'll show you that as well. There's also, for a little bit of like market research for you under this recommended. So they have some information about some of the things that they can offer you to help promote your stuff. And then some of the things that they think that you should know about the gift giving for this year, because their goal is to get you to sell as much as you possibly can, because until you sell stuff, they're not really making very much, just a little bit on the listing. So, so what we're looking at right now is basically what y'all will see when you start your store. So mine, I was actually just telling Fred, is a placeholder store because I'm not actively selling. So it's just kind of living here to show you where everything is. So let's kind of take a little cruise through this, and I'll show you sort of what's what here. So on the left side, you've got all of your navigation through the site. So we'll start with this listings, and how this basically works is when you come in the first time and make that account that I was telling you about, you click on your sell on Etsy, it's going to take you to a page where you're going to add your listing. So it is going to be this, add a listing right here. So you'll do that the first time, and then anytime you list after that, it's always going to be right here. So it'll be under listings on that left side, and then up on the top, add a listing. And when you click on this, it is going to tell you every step of the way what it needs from you. I'm going to draw your attention to just a couple of quick things about this, and then we'll duck out of here and I'll show you a couple of other things. So you've got your pictures, you can add a video, your details. You want to get as specific as you possibly can about who made it and the category that it is in, because that helps Etsy find you people basically to purchase your stuff. And then I'm going to scroll down a little more. Description. I always want to kind of tell people when they get down to the description here that if you sell something that is sort of similar that you can maybe just edit, write up that description ahead of time, throw it in a Word document or something like that, and then you can copy and paste it into this and just edit it right in here if you want to do that. I always kind of joke a little bit, but sort of not joking so much. This piece of it is kind of a little tedious, although they've added a lot of stuff over the years that has made it much less so. But this is always the time to sort of like binge some TV show that you've been really wanting to watch, and then you can just list a whole bunch of things and kind of get it all taken care of in one shot. So the other things that I would want you to know about are the tags. So tags are basically things that will sort of lead people to you. We'll talk a little bit more about those as we go on, but I just kind of want you to know where you can go to find those. And then the last thing I want to show you on this page before we go on and talk about the other things is the quantity and the variations. So this is really nice. It used to be back in the bad old days that when you added something on Etsy, you say maybe you had 10 quilts to sell or something like that, and they were all the same. You would have to list every single item individually. If you had 10 of them, you had to put up 10 listings. So what this does is it will let you list as many of those as you want. And then you can also list variations. So I can say I have 10 quilts and I've got 5 of them that are blue and I've got 5 that are red. And it will save me a boatload of work for one. And then the other thing that it does that's really, really nice is that it'll keep my inventory for me. So when I start getting kind of low, say I only have like one of my blue quilts left, they'll say, hey, you might want to maybe make some more. You're going to be out of your inventory pretty soon. So it kind of helps you to manage a little bit on the back end, and it's a great thing to know about. So other things that you're going to see here, I'm just going to leave. Your messages are going to be here. So if somebody maybe messages you to ask for a particular variation, say maybe they want something custom done, a lot of people do, or maybe somebody has a question about your shipping or how fast you think you'll be able to get it out to them, that'll all appear here and you can respond to them in this way. Your orders and shipping, all pretty self-explanatory. You can put together your shipping labels here once you've gotten your sales in. You can, update the progress, so let people know that something has actually shipped. All that happens there. Star Cellar is a pretty new thing that will let you identify yourself once you have had a bunch of sales as somebody who does a bunch of things, always responds to messages, has great ratings, ships on time, and shares tracking. And there are several other things here too. Actually, we can scroll down a little bit. Has lots of orders and has a certain number of sales. So this is just a new way that they have. They've only had for less than a year, probably 6 months, to sort of set you apart from everybody else. So your stats, this can be really useful. You can take a look at I offered a sale or something like that, and I can see that there was a big jump on my stuff. So I know that sale was really useful. Or I promoted in 3 different places, and the place that I promoted this week, that's where I was getting my sales from. So that can be a great piece of information to know about. So your finances, that's going to be where you're going to see your statements. It's going to be where you update like your credit card that you have on file, and we'll talk about that in a sec here. All of that lives there. Your marketing, you remember when I told you that you could do the sales and the coupons? This is going to be where you add that. You click on that, it'll tell you about different places that you can add a campaign or do a coupon, all options for you here. And then your integrations and all of this stuff. This is some of the stuff that I was talking about that maybe is just noise. So like really of all of this stuff, the things you're going to be working with the most often are going to be on the dashboard. And then of course your listings. So you can go up to that, add a listing. You can see what's sold. You can see how many you have left in stock. So I can see I've got 4 in stock of this because I want to make sure I've got enough. And then your orders and shipping. And then probably also going to be your marketing. So those are going to be the things that you are going to use the most in that dashboard. So that's the biggest stuff there. So let me see, I'm just going to get to the right spot here. So let's talk listings. So when you're in this page, it looks sort of like you are stuck here and you're never going to get out, but you will, I promise. So if you scroll down to where it says Etsy right there, that'll take you back out to a page where you can just go back up to the front screen. It's sort of a goofy thing. I'm not sure why they do that, but that's how you get back out. So let's talk about some of the things that can kind of help you to put together a good listing. So here are some things that I think that you need. So as we all know, the photos and the appearance of the thing it's really everything. It's the most important thing. We all know your product is fantastic, and let's figure out some ways to make that sort of show. So you can have up to 10 images, and I would say use every single one of them if you can. So you'll absolutely want to have a detail picture, one for scale, one of your product in use, and then one that's kind of an overall. You can have the 10, like I was saying, and then let me show you a couple of examples of this. So I always like to show things like this, so I can see sort of some different images. I can get an idea of the size, and then they also have it on a ruler, which is great. So I know what the size of it is. And then there's a little bit of, more pretty stuff basically. And then they've got a couple of pieces here that are shipping information. A lot of what I see, people use like that 9 and 10, like those pictures for, are going to be things like they have here shipping information, but you also see like size charts here a lot. So like, we know sizes are not the same across different brands, and they don't know where you got your supplies from. If you're just buying a shirt that you're screen printing or something like that. So this piece of it is really, really a helpful thing to do. So let's talk a little bit more about this, because it really, really is important. So other things I tell people, if it is something like either a bag, say, or like an earring, always, always, always show it on or on a mannequin or something like that. And the reason for that is, like, you can say it's something that's 1/2 inch, but a lot of people don't necessarily know what that is. Or like they don't know, like, in relation to my head, how big is this? There's a lot of people out there who are as spatially challenged as I am. So we want to give them as many visual cues as we possibly can. And the more that we can make it easy for them to purchase, the better. So I don't want for somebody to have to like pull out their ruler and hold it next to their head to figure out, like, will this thing fit me? Will this work for me? So when I say that, I think like, okay, I can work with this. I can see how far this is going to, what the drop on that's going to be, how big this thing is going to be. So I'm sure you all have had the experience of buying something and getting it, and it's either way bigger than you thought or way smaller. So we want to avoid that frustration if we possibly can. So I mentioned the other place that this is really true is for something like a handbag. So, here are some really good examples of that. So we can take a look at this and we can see it next to her. We can see it on her. So I can see like that drop from her shoulder. So I know where it kind of sits, especially great for people who are petite. A little bit of detail, like we talked about, the different sizes. And then a lot of these will also show you kind of the inside, so you get an idea. This one does not, but a lot of them will. So that's a useful thing to include as well. So this isn't entirely only the case when it comes to something like apparel or something that somebody is actually putting on their body. This is also true for things like tables. So a lot of people actually sell furniture on Etsy, and you can absolutely do this. I actually looked into it for a customer that I had once. They make, I'm trying to remember what they are. They're like trestle tables, I think they're called, with the little X things on the bottom, like the legs are sort of the X, out of old barnwood. And we've been trying to kind of figure out, like, how do we convey the size of this thing? And this person was in my class, and one of the other people said, I'm a photographer, and actually the way that I do this is you put it up against something that is a pretty standard size. So for something like that, you make sure you have plates on your table, and you take a picture so that there's a doorway in the background, because doors tend to be a fairly standard size. So we know people are probably going to still measure, and they absolutely should, but this will make it easier for them to get to the point where they're going to measure, because they can eyeball it and say, yeah, I think that might work in my space. I really like that. So the more ways that we can kind of help them get to that point, the better off we're going to be, and the happier they're going to be, which is what we really want. So it's not all about the sales, although really that is why you're here, but that's not everything. So you want to use your best possible lighting and display, everything you can do. Your camera on your phone is just fine. Phones these days have really, really good cameras on them. I'm not sure if Downers Grove has it. My library has a digital studio that you can use Photoshop in. I'm guessing you guys have something probably pretty similar to that. So if you needed to change it, you could. But honestly, for the most part, you don't. You can just take it and put it up, and it'll be just fine. If your story or if your product has a story or something, try and include that, because stories are a really big reason why people buy stuff. And I'm looking to see here if I can get to, I had a good one here for you. And if I don't find it in just a sec here, I'll just tell you about it, but it was kind of a cool picture. Oh, there we go. So this is Morbell Pottery. So they are out of Michigan, and they make all of this pottery and all of these other things, like stamped metal things, that are all made out of, or look like they are made out of old license plates. And if you go into this seller's profile, you'll see that it's because this gentleman got a set, a big inheritance really of old license plates from his grandfather. So that's why he does this, like, because it reminds him of his grandfather. Like, people love stories like this. So if you have some interesting reason that you do what you do, or I don't know, you have certain influences or something like that, include that, because people really, really do love it. Okay, so you can also take a look at some similar products. If you need some ideas on Etsy, take a look at some things that are sort of similar to what you do, and look and see how they kind of take their pictures and what they do. So say I do earrings or something like that. I can scroll through these and say, okay, yeah, I saw something kind of like this. That's smart. I can use this kind of thing, because, we all have our good things, and, we all have our gifts, and photography isn't it for all of us. So you can definitely try and go that route as well. And I will encourage you to do that for a lot of different things. So I'll mention that again later, but it is definitely really, really smart. If you're not sure how to do something, find somebody else who is doing it and take a look at what they've done. And you can kind of use that information and start from there. You can also use that information to see what you don't like. So maybe they've done something on this that I'm just like, I don't know why you did that. None of that makes any sense at all. And that's great information for you to know too. So these are just good things for you to kind of think about. Another thing that you can do when you are in here is you can take a look and see, like, we'll look at my recent items again. So there was like a fox hat or something like that. We can look and see Like, what do people absolutely love about this thing? Or like this handbag or whatever. We're looking through these sales. There's 29,000 of them. That's a lot of data for you if you're selling something like this. So yeah, I know you want to actually sell the thing and not just read about the thing, but it does kind of make sense for you to just sort of take a look through this and see what people are liking and what they're not liking. So it's also really important to see, like, did somebody give them 1-star review? And if they did, why? Was it because they thought that the pockets were too small or something like that? This is all just kind of useful information for you to know about. So let me close a couple windows here. Okay, so I'm going to go on back here. So then let's talk a little bit about price. So I think pricing is maybe one of the trickier things on Etsy. So we've made this thing, we have spent a ton of time on it. You know, say like I'm a knitter, so I knit blankets. It takes me a long time to knit a blanket. So I personally think that I should make a boatload of money off of it. But it can be really hard to sort of step back from that and think about, what should I actually really be charging for this thing? So there are some tools that can help us here. So you can look at those pricing for kind of the similar objects like we kind of were talking about. Take a look at what the range is there, and figure out what a reasonable range would look like for you. And really want to encourage you to be as realistic as you possibly can. I always encourage people to start on the lower end and work your way up, because the hardest part is those first couple sales. Once you get your first like 5-10 sales, then you can be a little bit more a little steeper in your pricing. But when you just want to get people in the door and get those ratings, you know, start with something that's a little lower end price wise. I know that it can be really tricky to think about, but better to try and come up with some ways to come up with some variation in your pricing. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. I have a customer who came in a couple of years back, and she does these sort of hand painted, they're like shibori, I think they're called, silk scarves. And she was like, well, you know, I don't know, like my materials are so expensive. I don't know how to give a range of pricing. And so it's like, well, that's a really good question, actually. And I just don't know, but let's take a look. And so we looked at it and finally figured out that she could do like a range of things. So she started to offer pocket squares, you know, for men's jackets. And she did handkerchiefs, and she did like the runners for like the top of dressers and stuff like that. All of that stuff, as well as the scarf. So the reason that this was so nice was like she could put up her pocket square or whatever for 35 bucks or whatever, and much more likely that somebody's going to buy that than they will like right out the gate that more expensive thing. But the nice thing about this though is not only do you get that sale, but then like, you know, you had that sale from the person who bought the pocket square for their husband, and then like the mother-in-law has a birthday coming up and they don't know what to get her, like they might think of your scarf that you're selling for $200. And once you have kind of created that relationship with them, once they've purchased a few things from you, it's far easier to get some new things. So think about if you can maybe vary your selection of your materials at all, if you can change up the sizes a little bit. All of those things can be so helpful to kind of get you a little bit of a foothold in this. You know, it's not always going to be like that. Eventually, you've got enough sales, you can, you know, charge much higher dollar, and you can do your full size stuff every single time if you don't want to mess around with that little stuff. But this just kind of can be a way to get you to that point where you can sort of do whatever you want to do. So these are all good things to kind of think about. Compare your pricing across Etsy. Obviously, eBay is another good place to look at. Amazon also has some handmade stuff. So they're a good source. So you can just search for whatever it is that you make. So I would search for like silk scarf. You might have to mess around with your words a little bit, but you should be able to kind of figure out some way to get around to kind of some of those price points that you're looking at. Consider your coupons and your specials. So I showed you that is living up here. It's under that dashboard. So that can look a couple of different ways. What that can look like is like, you know, by Friday at 5 o'clock and you will get 10% off. Or it could be something that maybe you say, like, if somebody maybe comes to like a show you're doing, like you are out at a craft show, you give them a coupon for 10% off or something like that. Or they're a return customer and you give them something for 10% off. So those are all things that can kind of help you. Certainly you can do like a buy one, get one half off. Etsy supports all of that stuff. So you can take a look and see what makes sense for you, kind of in what you sell. So one of the goofy things that I always try and tell people this about when I'm teaching this class is PIF, which is pay it forward. So this is a holdover from when Etsy first started. So Etsy's pretty old, actually, as far as like sort of commerce sites and websites goes. It has probably been around for well over 10 years now. And this is something that they used a whole lot that was really, really popular, probably until like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We're seeing it a little less now. The reason that I always try and tell people about pay it forward, which originally was like, pay it forward, like I'm going to give you a great deal on this thing and do something nice for somebody eventually, is let's take a look here at PIF, and this is the thing people actually search for, especially people who have been buying here for a long time. And we'll say earring. So we'll look at it and it'll say, you know, some of it just is like surely you being pin, but still you can see there are some things here that we can take a look at. These are, some are very cheap. Like we saw, 20 cents, 99 cents there. And some of them are just like, these are things that they're not 20 cents, but they're cheaper than what we would normally charge you. And this is just kind of in the spirit of the thing. So the reason I always tell people that they should look at this is because there are 18 results here. So then if you imagine when I just search for earring, you're going to come up with 5,794,000. So it gives you, even if only, you know, a couple thousand people search for PIF, they're still going to have much, much more better chance, I guess, for people to find you than they maybe would have otherwise. So it's a good thing to take a look at if you have something that you can let go at cost, or maybe some supplies that are left over. I cannot be the only one who always has like just a few things left over. It's never enough for the whole project. You can actually sell those since you have the seller account. You can sell them right here, either at cost or just a little bit above. And all those things will generate those sales that'll get you the ratings that will start getting you like those substantive sales. All of those things kind of get some motion going on your store. And then finally, I always try and tell people, you have to be ready to adjust that pricing if it's not working. So give it a little time, give it a couple weeks. If you're not seeing any action on that, on those sales, what you can do is go to the link I gave y'all It's in your handout. It's under pricing. And if you click on that, it'll take you to a really helpful article that Etsy has done that's living in the Cellar Handbook. And when you scroll down on this, you're going to see a couple of things that I think will be helpful for you. But the thing that is the most useful is if you click on this Google Drive worksheet or the Excel worksheet, it's going to launch something for you that will give you sort of some starting points. So this has all of the formulas built into it already. And you can just go right into this and plug in the materials that you use to put this together. You know, if you had to rent a space to do it, you can throw that in here, the amount of time and kind of like what you would say per hour your time is worth. All of that stuff can be put into this. And then it's going to generate for you a price that they think that you should try charging for it. So this is a really useful tool if you're getting a little bit stuck. You can fill it all in for all of your things if you wanted to, or you can just use it to kind of get an idea of like what your true cost is for this thing. Very much recommend it. A lot of people use it. It's really, really useful. So let me get back in here. So those are all real useful things. Let's talk a little bit about your selling costs, which are less exciting. So I mentioned to you that you were going to have to put in a little bit of financial information to get going. So there's going to be two things that you're going to need to provide to Etsy to get started. So one is going to be a bank account, and that's going to be so that they have, you know, someplace to deposit the millions of dollars that I know you're going to all be making. And I hope you remember me when you're rich. But you can use, you know, your plain old bank account if you want to, or you can open an online bank account. A lot of people use services like Ally for this kind of thing, because it's just easy to transfer stuff in and out of your real bank account. You do you, whatever works for you. The other reason, the other piece of information you're going to need is some kind of credit card or something like that. So the reason that you'll provide that is so that you can pay for those listing fees. So they have a whole lot of add-on fees right now, but I think that at this point of things, when you're sort of just starting, it's really just muddying the waters for you. I think it is probably more hassle and more stress than it's worth to figure out. So just generally, what you're looking at is going to be sort of this basic parameter. So every listing is going to be 20 cents for 4 months or until your item sells, whichever one of those comes first. So if it sells 3 days in, that's your 20 cents. And then you can go ahead and relist it or do whatever you want to do. They will also charge you beyond that 5% of the sales price for any item once it's sold. That's your transaction fee. And then there is a 3% plus 25 cents fee. And that's to process the payment. So that's kind of their cut of the thing. So all of that stuff is really useful to know about. There is a page that I linked for you under fees and payment policy right here. If you go into this, it'll give you an idea of the different kind of fees that they have. And a lot of this is like their add-on stuff. So like if you wanted to pay extra for promotion, or if you wanted to pay for a hosting. So they have like a website hosting thing called Pattern that just, it's the same thing as Etsy. It just pretties up the background a little bit. There are different fees for that stuff. So that page that I listed there will get you to that beyond those basic fees that we just talked about. But you really don't got to mess with that for a while, not until you're really comfortable with the rest and you're feeling good about it. So you want to be really careful to include in your costs, things for shipping. So you want to think about your materials. So your envelopes, your cardboard backing, if you're selling something that needs to kind of stay flat, packing peanuts, tape boxes. If it's something that was really expensive or something that you would have a hard time recreating, you probably want to consider insuring it. I always recommend that people take a look at those flat rate boxes through the post office. So those are really a good option for if you don't want to mess around with like weighing stuff every single time. Those are really nice because you just gotta, as long as you can fit it into the envelope or into the box, it ships for a flat rate. So definitely compare that versus, your other things, your other options, and sort of see what it ends up looking like for you. If you possibly can, it's good to, especially right now, I think, build the shipping into your purchase price. And then you just put it down as free shipping, basically. So you add your couple bucks on, it's going to be like $6 to ship it. Just add a couple bucks on there and just say free shipping. And it's a little bit simpler. And I think people will look for free shipping over something, obviously, that is not, even though the price works out probably about the same for them either way. And then the other thing I always try and tell people at this point is like, people get it when you inflate the shipping to make up for a cheap price. It's always kind of obvious. So try and keep those as low as you possibly can. We don't want you to lose money on this or anything. So don't do that to yourself, but try and keep it kind of reasonable. Keep it kind of under control. So then some things to not sell. So we talked about a lot of different things that you can sell, but some things that you cannot. So anything less than 20 years old is vintage. So you can still probably sell it, but you cannot sell it as something under that vintage label. Anything that is resold, with the exception of that vintage item, if it is more than 20 years old. So what they kind of mean with this is you'll once saw maybe 4 or 5 years ago, lots of things where somebody bought it and then turned around and sold it right away here for a little bit of a markup. And actually, this is a really good example here. This is a costume I bought my dog for Halloween at Petco. This is solidly a resold item, and it'll probably get taken down at some point. So what they want to avoid is the people who, buy like a pair of white sneakers and then they just turn around and sell them. Now, if you are buying those sneakers and then you paint them and turn around and sell them, more power to you. You do you. You have done something with it. You've made something, different. You're not trying to represent it as something that is yours that is not. Anything infringing on intellectual property, obviously anything illegal, don't be that guy, you'll get taken down. And then the last thing is food or alcohol before you research the laws in your county and in your state. So this is not a blanket thing, by the way. I had somebody in a class a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, who told me after class that her daughter makes and sells chocolates on Etsy. And she did all this research. They all did this research together. And it turns out that in their county, was like maybe Lake or something like that, you can sell on Etsy that stuff if you make it in a commercial kitchen. So they do. They just rent a commercial kitchen once a month. They make their supply for the month and then they just go ahead and sell it. So just kind of do a little bit of research if that's something that you're interested in kind of dipping your toe into, and kind of take it from there. So then let's talk promotion. So you guys know you've got to promote. Like there are, I don't know, 10 million items or something like that on here. There's just so much. I mean, it's probably frankly more because I think we just saw With jewelry, it was like 5 million or something like that. So you've got to do something to help people find you. We're just kind of giving you a little bit of a chance to have a leg up. But you have a lot of different tools. So we've talked about a lot of them. We've talked about those, your coupons, your specials, the promotion. I mentioned the tagging earlier. So the tags are words that describe your item. So let's take a look at this particular one. And I haven't looked at this, so I don't know what they did with their tags, but usually they're listed down on the bottom of the page. If they put them in, yep, and they did. So you'll see these related categories and searches. These tend to be what their tags were. So if I were selling these, I would do something like earrings. I would do like blue earrings. I would do sea glass, all sorts of things like that. And what that does for you is tags are what Etsy uses and what Google uses to bring your stuff up in search, basically. So that means when I am up on this main page, if I search for blue earrings or like blue sea glass earrings or something like that, I should come up with this. I may not come up with it on the first or the second page. Who knows? It just all depends on like how they weight stuff, but it will come up. So it's really good to kind of keep that in mind. Think about some of those words that you can use to attach to your different posts. So you can have 13 of them for every single listing that you have. And you can change them for every listing, or if you have a pretty similar thing, you can just use all the same ones. So those are all really good things to know about. Etsy supports registries. So that means like wedding registries, registries for new houses, for babies. So if it's something that could be used in a new house or for a baby or something like that, it's always good to include the word registry or baby or whatever in that so that it can kind of get included in some of those search results, because people totally do sort of search for registry information here. You can favorite stores and a lot of times they will reciprocate. This is mostly true when you are using somebody else's materials to make your thing. So we use the example of quilting earlier. So say I buy my material through some store on Etsy, and then I use that and create a quilt. I would maybe like favorite their store, and oftentimes they will favorite me in return, and people may kind of take a look at my stuff because they have done so. So I don't know how useful that will be for any of you, but it is something to kind of think about if it's something that's applicable for you. Use social media if you can. Say a lot of people say Twitter. I do not think Twitter is useful for this at all because it's not visual. What I would probably focus your energies on if you decide you want to try and do this are going to be Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. So I think probably most people get like more engagement out of Facebook and Pinterest, but you know, it will just all depend on your product. So there's a couple of different ways that you can look at this. So like we can take a look at like Facebook. So I have a friend of mine who has a page on Facebook for her business. It's SEM Illustrations, and she does some really interesting things here. If we click on this, she will post sales. She posts those coupons that we were talking about. It's a good clearinghouse for her because she'll also use this to like across platform. So she sells at Threadless as well. It also lets her, sorry, let me get rid of this because of course my window's right over it. So she can also say when she's going to be like out at a craft show or something like that. All of that stuff is all stuff she can do. She can feature stuff here, and this doesn't cost her anything, just a little bit of time. I always tell people, like, you're spending all this time to make your stuff, so this is a good place to kind of create a sort of a landing page for all of those things. So that's a really good option for you. Another place that you can put your stuff is if you go to Pinterest. You can pin your own things here, or you can also use these things as sort of ways to find products that are kind of similar to you. So you can use, sorry, I was just looking at something and I lost it now. You can use these to search for things that are sort of similar to what you do. And you can also pin your own stuff. So you can pin your things here because it will go straight back to Etsy. So say I have pinned my thing here, I can click on that and it'll go right to Etsy. And, you know, if I love it, you know, you can see selling fast. There's one left and 5 people have it in their cart. So it really can work because it is so visual. Etsy can work really, really well to drive people to your Etsy store. So that's a really great option for you. This is also a really great way, and I feel like I'm jumping around a little bit on here, but we're going to go there together. To search for things that people have loved so much that they have pinned them. This is a good way to kind of do a little bit of extra market research. So just kind of a thing to sort of keep in mind, that this is another good way to kind of get some ideas. These aren't going to all apply to whatever it is that you do, but sometimes it does. And you'll be surprised at how useful it can be for you. You can always include pictures and links to your stores that you have on Etsy, on any business cards that you might have. I'm sure that Fred's done programs and stuff on these before, but there's like a gajillion places to get really, really cheap business cards. So make some of those guys up ahead of time when you know what your store name is going to be, and you can give them out when you're out and about. If you are like at a craft fair or something like that, you can share it there. Put it with packages when you sell stuff. Just kind of tuck it in there. That way people have something to remember where they bought the thing, so that they can kind of come back to you and buy more. Those are all really useful things. One thing I would always suggest that you do, if it is applicable for you at all, is if you can include a freebie in the package when somebody buys something from you. So this does not have to be an expensive thing. You know, we talked about like those coupons for a little bit of a rebate on your store or something like that. I have somebody who I bought for years and years and years from, always bought my soap from her, and she would always include the ends from the soaps. So like when they make soap, it all kind of comes out as like sort of this big block, right? And they have to do a lot of trimming, and so there are like these little pieces left over. And so what she always did that I just really loved is like she would take those, and instead of throwing them away or melting them down or whatever, she would just wrap them up right on the little, you know, piece of paper that it was wrapped in, what it was. And then she would put it in my package with like my 3 or 4 other soap that I did buy. And the reason that's so great is because then I buy my vanilla soap or whatever, and I've got this sample basically of like a lavender or something like that, so I can see if I like it, so that I can buy that one next time if I like it, or know that I don't like it. So it doesn't cost her anything to do that. It's free, and it's just great promotion. So other things you can include there, like things like extra backs to earrings and stuff like that, if you've got them, anything that you have that you think maybe either you won't use, or maybe they'll be able to use it more than you will, or just that makes it feel kind of fancy. Wrap up your present a little bit, make it feel like it's a gift. Buy those little organza bags that you can get at Michael's, like, I don't know, they're like $7 for like 1,000 of them. They're like little bags, makes it feel like a present. You see a lot of jewelry that comes in those, that can all be really kind of nice to have. Anything that makes it feel like kind of something special, like a gift, like something you're really, really excited to open up. All of those things can really help you get somebody to come back to you for their next purchase. So those are all really useful things to think about. Include a handwritten note if you can. Doesn't have to be anything wild and crazy. It can literally just be on a little note card. Hey, thank you so much for purchasing from me. I really appreciate you. Have a great holiday season, or whatever you want to do. People love handwritten notes because there just aren't that many people anymore that do them. So do include those if you can. So we talked a little bit, just to kind of wrap up a little bit, we talked a little bit about that market research. And so we have seen, like, you can go to Pinterest and sort of see some of the things that are trending there. If you go to the front page of Etsy, the stuff that you're going to see is going to be the stuff that like directly applies to you, so that we're seeing all of this stuff because we clicked on it. But if you scroll down a little bit beyond like the, hey, you clicked on earrings, so we think you'll want all of these things, you're going to see things that are like these one-of-a-kind things for people. So they have these different guides here. You can take a look through these and see what they have, the people who are selling these things have done that have kind of distinguished themselves. There's a whole team of people at Etsy who go through these things and sort of pull some interesting items out for, featuring in this spot. So you can take a look at that and sort of see what kind of pops out at you as far as these things go for interesting things. And then finally, I wanted to make sure that I tell you about a really good resource, a couple of really good resources. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, like better help than pretty much anything I could ever give you is this Cellar Handbook. This is a deep, deep knowledge base of stuff that is useful and is constantly being vetted. So you have to worry about things being out of date or not useful anymore. And they have some of their most frequently asked questions popping up in here. There'll be a lot of stuff for marketing. Whole lot of things on, like, I saw photography here. So they have a lot of tips for that. A lot of things to kind of look for as you are sort of preparing all of your stuff for sale. Other things that you can take a look at, you can totally go to YouTube. And if you're stuck on something, go to YouTube and see what, type it in, see what they say. I would just really caution you to take a look at the dates on those YouTube videos. Things change so quickly on Etsy. So I would not really probably look at anything that is older than 4 or 5 months, I think, probably, just because things change around often enough. And I would hate to have you spend a bunch of your time watching something and then trying to kind of follow it and kind of make it work for you if it's an older thing. So just watch that date and you'll be good. Other things that I wanted to mention, your library, Downers Grove, if you go to your databases pages, I think under your website, I think it's called research, you have LinkedIn Learning. They have a module for Etsy that has some basics, like here's where to go to sell. Here is, and like a lot of it is what we kind of did today, but if you need a refresher, They have some really useful videos on there that I think would help you. The other place that you have on your website under those research tabs is Universal Class. Looks like it has some craft classes in there. I don't know if it has Etsy or not because my library doesn't have it. But they definitely have craft classes in there. So if you're looking for like maybe a different spin on what you're already doing, or if you just need some new ideas or something like that, that can be a really good place to go to look. So those are the things that I have for you.